Hello everyone, I'm Елена and today I will be sharing with you how to make those beautiful ciabattas using an amazing einkorn flour. I baked mine in my Rovka B40 oven and I understand not everyone has those in their homes, so I will explain how you can bake same beautiful, tasty, healthy bread in your regular kitchen oven. So let's get started. And first thing, we need to prepare Levain. The night before mixing day, I took my sourdough einkorn sourdough starter. I keep mine in pretty stiff condition. It's like 60% hydration. And I fed it in the morning, so by the evening it was all ready to be used. And for 3 ciabattas, I needed 420 grams of Levain. And I wanted mine to be ready by the morning, so it would be like 9-10 hours. I took 30 grams of my ripe sourdough starter, added 202 grams of warm water, and mixed it with the spatula for like a couple minutes just to break in smaller pieces. Then I took my all-purpose einkorn flour, 188 grams of it. I added it to my water and sourdough starter mix, and then again with my silicone spatula I mixed my Levain really well, making sure there's no like crumbs or dry flour left. It took me a few minutes to bring it to that smooth, nice consistency. As I was mixing, I realized that the dish I used was a little bit too big for the amount of dough. So I decided to transfer it to a smaller bowl. And this is how my Levain looked after mixing. I covered it with plastic hat and left it in my proofer at 74 Fahrenheit for 9 hours overnight. And in the morning I gathered all the ingredients for 3 ciabattas. I took 720 grams of all-purpose einkorn flour, 420 grams of warm water, 15 grams of pink salt, you can use any salt, and 23 grams of extra virgin olive oil. I use this kind, but you could take any olive oil you have. And of course, the Levain I mixed night before. By the morning, it like almost tripled in size, was all bubbling top, smelled so good, and was ready to be used in my ciabattas. First, I combined salt with the flour, mixed it well. I kind of fluffed it up, and it took me maybe a minute or two just to make sure salt evenly spreaded through the flour. Then I took my prepared water and poured some of it into the Levain. I mixed it together. Added my olive oil and mixed it well again. And then poured this mixture into the flour. There still was some of Levain left on the walls of the dish, so I added more water and poured it again into the flour. And I did the same with the rest of the water that was left. And after all ingredients are in, we can start mixing the dough. It is very sticky at first, so I usually start with a spatula, mixing with a spatula as long as I can. And then I take the dough scraper and scrape all the like dry pieces of the dough from the sides and start kind of like pulling dough from the sides into the center. It helps me to see if there's no like dry flour left underneath. And I always keep a bowl with the water next to me so I can wet my hand, and I continue mixing the dough with my hand, constantly dipping my hand into water, because dough is very sticky at this point, and we don't want much of the dough stick to our hands. I usually do it with one hand, kind of like work it through the whole dough, making sure there's no like dry pieces of flour left. And yeah, the other hand I like to keep clean in case if I need to take something. So yeah, I always have like one clean hand. And this is how my dough looks after mixing. I cover it with a plastic hat and leave in my proofer for 15 minutes. I set my proofer to 75 Fahrenheit. If it's a little cooler in your kitchen, you can leave it for 20 minutes. And this is how my dough looks after 15 minutes in the proofer. And I'm going to be doing first stretch and fold. First, I help myself with the scraper and wet my hands constantly because dough is very sticky at this point. And I fold my dough from all 4 sides, kind of like pulling it up a little bit. I'm not really stretching much at this point, just kind of like folding it to the center. And then I do another round, 2 rounds on my first stretch and fold. 2 times from each side. That's how it looks. I cover it with the plastic hat again and leave it in my proofer for another 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, I'm doing my second stretch and fold. Now you can see how dough is a little bit more stretchy, so I kind of like pull it higher this time. It is still sticky, so I do wet my hands constantly, and I pull and fold my dough from each of 4 sides, 1 time from each side. And then I wanted to flip my dough so I have like smooth side on top. So I kind of picked it up from the center and kind of like folded it, rolled it up just like that. So I have smooth sides on top. And then I cover it with a plastic hat again and leave it for another 15 minutes. And after 15 minutes, I'm doing my third and last stretch and fold. This time I'm doing it a little bit differently. I lift the dough from the center and let it curl up, just like that. If dough is sticking to the dish, don't tear it. Just let it go and try another time until it let you fold it, just like that. It's sticking, so I let it go and try again. And again, and then I do it from 2 other sides, lift it up and let it curl in, and that's it. That's all my 3 stretch and folds that I needed for this dough. I cover it with my plastic hat and leave the dough in my proofer for 3.5 hours. And this is how the dough looks after 3 hours in the proofer at 75 Fahrenheit. It's doubled inside, have some bubbles on top. So yeah, it does look ready. I sprinkled the table with a good amount of flour because dough will be kind of sticky. So you do need a lot of flour to work with it. Then I sprinkled some flour on the edges of the dough. This would help me to scrape the dough out of the bowl. And look at this beautiful net of fermentation. I took a bigger scraper and folded dough from one side to the center, swept some extra flour, and then flipped the dough from another side to the edge. Then I picked up the dough from one side and folded it in half, and very gently shaped it in some kind of rectangle. I had prepared baking sheet and 3 rugs for grilling. You can use parchment paper folded in 2. And also I had this cloth, linen cloth, to cover my ciabattas. And I sprinkled those grilling sheets with the flour really well. And then with the dough knife, I divided my dough into 3 pieces. I picked one and laid it on one of those grilling sheets, and I did the same with the rest of the dough. I created some sort of boards between ciabattas so they're not touching each other and they hold their shapes. There still was some space left on my baking sheet, so I rolled the kitchen towel and put it next to my last ciabatta. Then I sprinkled some more flour over all of these 3 ciabattas and covered them with my linen cloth and leave them at a room temperature for about an hour. And in the meantime, start preheating your oven to 450 Fahrenheit with your pizza stone in the center of the oven and some pan for steam at the bottom of the oven. Like I said, I baked mine in my Rovka B40 oven, but you can do the same, exactly same things in your regular kitchen oven. When it's time to bake, you have your pizza stone preheated. If you don't have pizza stone, you can do the same with the regular baking sheets. So you pick your ciabattas with that parchment paper and transfer them from this baking sheet they were resting on into your baking sheet in the oven or pizza stone. Then pour boiling water into that baking pan at the bottom of the oven and shut the door. Bake with the steam for 10 minutes. After 15 minutes, open the oven, take the baking pan with the boiling water out so you don't have steam anymore, and pull parchment paper from under the ciabattas and continue baking at the same temperature for about 20 minutes. In the last 5 minutes, check if the crust on top is not getting too dark. In my oven it did, so I covered it with the foil, but it may not happen in a regular kitchen oven. So just check on it. And this is it. Those beautiful crispy ciabattas are done. Thank you for watching my video. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, please comment below. I'll be more than happy to answer. Please subscribe. This is my new channel and I have so much more to share. And I'll see you in my next video. Have a wonderful day.